This is the Anbernic RG35XX-H. It's the horizontal cousin of the RG35XX that I reviewed a couple of months ago, which was an okay handheld in its own right, but my biggest criticism for the RG35XX was that it felt like it was just slapped together to try and draw sales away from the ultra popular Miyoo Mini Plus. The 35XX-H looks to be more than just the same handheld thrown in a horizontal shell. It has some upgrades that allow it to stand on its own two legs. But how well does it actually perform? And with these upgrades, is it really worth getting? Let's open this thing up and take a closer look. Inside the box, you have the handheld itself, an optional screen protector, a USB Type-C cable for data transfer and charging, and a basic set of instructions. Taking a closer look at the 35XX-H itself, and the first thing that stood out to me is how small this handheld is. Now it has a 3.5-inch display, which is a good size for a handheld of this caliber, but the space around the buttons, D-pads, and analog sticks makes for a pretty tight squeeze. Despite its compact size, it still manages to be pretty comfortable to hold. I put in a few hours of playtime while filming this, and I really didn't experience any hand fatigue. And I will say it's really nice to see that the pocket-sized handhelds are starting to be the preferred design for some of these more low-spec handhelds. As far as setup goes, you have 4 face buttons, 2 analog sticks, and a directional pad. You have your start and select button, and both analog sticks have L3 and R3 inputs. They seem to feel of good quality, very Nintendo Switch-like, and the clickiness feels solid. Over on the top side, we have the 4 horizontal side-by-side shoulder buttons. I can't express to you how much I wish this design would go away. I understand it's difficult when you're trying to make a horizontal pocket-sized handheld to make some more trigger-style shoulder buttons, but we've seen it done before. Besides me hating the design, the buttons seem to be pretty solid. Nice, tactile, and clicky. You also have a 3.5mm headphone jack. You have 2 USB Type-C inputs and HDMI output, essentially allowing you to use this thing in a type of console mode with the added extra inputs, allowing you to connect multiple controllers, maybe a mouse and keyboard, or even an arcade joystick. This is a really nice touch and really adds to its overall versatility. Over on the bottom, you'll find the speakers and 2 micro SD card slots, one for the operating system and another for expandable storage. This one came with 64 gigabytes and over 5,000 games, and the additional SD card doubled that capacity. And on its backside, you have these 2 little rubber pads, which do very little in terms of ergonomics and comfort, but are great for stabilizing this thing while on a flat surface, to stop it from moving around while playing it in console mode. It goes as high as PSP, and its performance in that regard is pretty hit or miss. Playing God of War, there is the possibility that this game might have been optimized for this specific device, and it actually runs surprisingly good. Slowdown was very minimal, and the whole time I played I didn't experience any graphical hiccups. GTA has really wishy-washy performance. I would say overall it's more playable than not, but you will experience, the best way I can describe it, choke points. I thought this only occurred when too many objects were on screen at once, but it seems to happen at pure random increments. Overall it's playable, but I will say it's not the most ideal way to play this game. Tekken 6 is one of those games that usually gives solid performance on some of the lower spec handhelds, but I was kind of disappointed with how it ran on here. There seemed to be a lot of stuttering, some slowdown, and I even noticed some input delay, which is a bit strange because this isn't one of the more resource demanding games when it comes to PSP emulation. The few other PSP games that I tried ran pretty close to perfect. The frame rate stood pretty smooth, and nothing game breaking seemed to occur. Despite the hit or miss performance, I really like the way PSP games look on this handheld. I don't know if it's the quality of the screen or the overall assembly, but I was very pleased from a visual standpoint. The Dreamcast library was pretty limited on here, which was slightly disappointing because it runs Dreamcast really good. You're still going to find some good quality games, a lot of the Dreamcast must-haves are present, but there's also quite a few that are missing. And it's a shame because this is some of the best Dreamcast performance I've seen within this price point. Of course, you can always add your own games after the fact, but for some people that just want to pick up and play, it would have been nice to see them beef up the Dreamcast library. They slightly make up for it with the addition of a handful of Sega Naomi games. And once again, performance is really good considering the price point. It always makes me happy when they include some of the more obscure emulators. I had gotten a Virtual Boy when I was a kid, but that was when it was already discontinued and on clearance. I couldn't find any games for the thing, so I was stuck playing Mario Tennis over and over. With devices like this, I've finally been able to play some of the games. Not that I was missing out on anything great, but it's still really nice to see. And once again, similar to the RG35XX, all of your 8-bit, 16-bit, and even 32-bit retro emulation is spot on. I was very happy to see that they didn't take away the PS1 capabilities that were present in the RG35XX. I have to say they got it right. They didn't take anything away, they just expanded upon it. It has a 3DS emulator, but playing 3DS on this little screen, it's hard to find the comfortable orientation. And the selection of games is a really bizarre choice, I must say. Nonetheless, a great inclusion, but not the most ideal way to play some of these games. And it was nice to see that they included a bunch of ports that'll really allow you to utilize the dual analog sticks on this device. So the Anbernic RG35XX-H. Guys, I have to say it's always refreshing when a company goes back to the drawing board and puts their best foot forward, because that's exactly what they did here with the 35XX-H. Everything that I disliked about the previous iteration hasn't only been fixed, but been expanded upon. The 35XX series went from being a lower quality Miyuu Mini to really now being one of the best emulation handhelds in the sub $100 range. This is a really solid value for its asking price. And as this market gets increasingly saturated, it's becoming harder and harder to stand out. The 35XX-H definitely does enough to remain competitive in the space. It's better in every way, shape, and form than its predecessor, and is definitely worth taking a look at if you're in the market for a budget retro handheld. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, this is Ness, signing out.